Hello my lovelies, Rob here from Kickback Garage. We are cracking on with the Series 1 build. The parts arrived after 5 weeks of waiting, and now we have to get this thing into the scooter. So what I thought I'd do today is run you through the problems, the hitches that you might get fitting a 5-speed gearbox. Interested? Grab a coffee, and I'll see you after the intro. Let it rip. Messing around with these cameras, batteries going flat.
Markerte det med regn, alle sprang I lag og ville komme under tak. Ingen av oss merket at du hadde falt ifra. Hvorfor valgte du å dra? Hvem I faen kunne se den komme? Da høsten tok over, sa vi hadde bratt la oss sommer.
Ta-da! So here you see the 5-speed gearbox. This particular one is first generation Cyclone 5 from Remy Lambretta or Casa Performance. These are actually quite good gearboxes, but they were renowned to being a real pain to fit. I've already fit this and taken it out because I decided to change my lay shaft. There's a couple of reasons for that. The biggest one being safety, and the second one being I had some fitment issues with the original Series 1 type, which is over there. Now, another thing as well, I had to strip this anyway, this gearbox, because for some really strange, weird and wonderful reason, he'd fit this spring. Now, if you've had a spring out of a lay shaft, you will know that they are quite a lot longer than this normally. But this is short. It's made out of, I think I measured it to like 9.5, 10 gauge wire, and it's extremely stiff, and that just made the gear changes really, really stiff. Now, there's a bit of a myth, if you ask me at the... don't do that with the camera, Rob. There's a bit of a myth out on the interwebs at the moment that say that you really need a stiffer spring when you fit a 5-speed gearbox, and that's actually, bullshit. The real reason why people say that when selecting fifth gear on a 5-speed gearbox, the reason why they jump out of fifth is because of inherent problem that Innocenti has built into their engines. It's quite tight in there. So I've got this wishbone. I've talked about this earlier. And what I tend to do when I fit them, even if I fit a 4-speed gearbox, I do this. You see that whole bunch of material on the backside of the wishbone there. You grind that down. You can use a file or a grinder, die grinder, whatever. Because this top edge corner, and you can actually maybe even see that this has been in contact with. This is just something random that I had in my drawer, but you can actually see it's been in contact with the case, and that's pretty normal. And let's have a look in here. Let's have a look. No, this one's actually okay. No marks there. But I bet you 9 out of 10 Lambretta blocks, when you strip the gearbox, if you've got some sloppy bearings or something, you would have seen that the wishbone has actually been in contact with the case. That's very, very common. But if you grind them, then you don't have to do that. And if you do that, then you don't have to fit the stronger spring. I have heard, however, that the Casa Performance extra strong spring isn't actually extra strong. I think it's like 10% extra. So that might be a safe bet as well. But definitely do not fit the MB type, which I suspect the one that was in here. Because there's so many MB things in here, I suspect that it was from MB. And they're absolutely terrible. They're just a nightmare to change gear, and it actually feels like your clutch is slipping or something like that. Terrible idea. Right, let's have a look at the gearbox. My wife very kindly donated, so I don't have to drink that Italian wee anymore. That's not really a small drum, Rob, is it? No, it isn't. So this could be interesting during the evening here. Very nice. Right. These are probably the hardest gearboxes you can fit. I have fit these, the DRT one. I have fit the Kreimas one, which is a little better, but not much better. The new modern MB gearbox is a dream to fit, and so is the Cyclone 5 gearbox. I have not, unfortunately, had my dirty mitts on an AF 5-speed. They seem quite cheap, apparently reliable. But yeah, so I'm just going to run you through the pitfalls of these. Now, the first thing I think I'll say, first bit of advice, is if you are looking at a 5-speed gearbox, then just to make life easier for yourself, follow the manufacturer's recommendation on type of lay shaft and rear hub bearing. Now, the reason for this is rear hub bearings, they do stand proud in the gearbox area, and some stand proud more than others, and that can give you a bit of a problem when you're trying to shim up your gearbox. Oh, sorry, that was a bit of a whiskey hiccup. And what was I saying now? Oh my goodness! I think I'll have to have another swig to lighten up my memory. Yeah, so go with the recommendations. What I recommend basically is if you buy an MB gearbox, then fit an MB bearing and a MB lay shaft, because that way, if you get problems, you can phone up MB and say, "Hey, I've got problems," and they'd probably be able to give you some help with that, without fobbing off other people's products. This is a Casa Performance gearbox, so what I did, I went out and I bought a Casa Performance lay shaft. Now, the MB gearbox that I fit, that I fit with a Octopus multi-spline, and to be able to line up the gears, I actually had to throw it on the lathe, and slightly, it wasn't a lot, it was, what was it, 0.3 mil. I had to take off the bottom edge there to get the fifth gear on the gearbox and the fifth gear on the gear cluster to line up properly, because that's the way you have to do it. Now, the first thing that you do before you even think about fitting it is fit your loose gears onto your lay shaft one at a time. These are dead easy because it says facing towards kickstart, so just slide those on. I've got a tiny little bit of a smear of gearbox oil on the lay shaft, and give that gear a spin. Now, I wasn't expecting anything to happen there, and I've actually had all the gears on here. Let's have a look. I put them on because I want to show you one of the biggest problems on 5-speed gearboxes, and that is the hole for the selector spring on your lay shaft. Those things, even on original ones, this one quite notably, they are in slightly different positions. Now, you can see this one has been absolutely bulged up for some strange reason. I reckon someone's used some sort of tool when they're trying to fit their bearings and spring in here, and sort of knackered the edge. So here, when I fit this the first time, I had to get my file out here. But the big problem that I had with this is when I fit all my gears and spin them, they have to spin absolutely freely, like they do here. But if you see here, you can see I have machined down a tiny slither on this second gear cog, and that is because when I was fitting to my original lay shaft and I had my sliding dog selected in neutral position, it was actually catching on the selector. and that is quite a common problem, and that should be eliminated if you go down the route of using the lay shaft that the manufacturer recommends. And this, I've got loads of clearance. Even if I hadn't of machined that down, it would have cleared on this lay shaft. That's high sign for you. But it was so little, it doesn't really matter. It was just a lot of work. Right, and then I'm going to put on my first gear and spin the whole assembly. And that spins really nice. So what that means is I can now proceed to fit my lay shaft and try and shim up this bugger. So that's my lay shaft fit. If you do not have a tool to pull in your lay shaft, I'm not a big believer of knocking them through, then use a tube or something like that and put your hub on there, because this has to be tightened all the way down before you can shim this. What you can do is fit all the loose gears, fit the gearbox end plate, and you can shim up your gearbox, the loose gears at least, that way straight away. So I think I'll do that. I'll put these in position. The last time I shimmed this with the Italian lay shaft, this is also Italian, but I mean the original lay shaft, then please go down there, sir. A bit tight, lad, a bit tight, like so. Rimini Lambretta recommend in their paperwork that with the Indian gearbox, so you need to use a 1 point, what was it? I have to look at this because I chose the recommended one. Where's the numbers? This is a 1.4. Rimini said that 1.4 is probably the most normal to use on an Indian block, and it was. Now, one thing you've got to be aware of here as well, quite hard to see on my camera without the zoom, is that the first gear has to sit proud of the lay shaft. There's a lot of problems with that on the famous LI 150 gearbox, where the gears actually fit underneath the lay shaft top. And if that is a fact, you need to either machine it down or use a different lay shaft. This is another reason for using what the producer of the gearbox recommends as a lay shaft, because they can, if they sit under there, you're just not going to be able to shim it. So now I'll stick this on there. I'm really hoping that I don't have to do too much work in shimming this, and it should go together okay. Now another hot tip is, with 5-speed gearbox fitting, grab yourself, I know it's more money, but you could afford an expensive 5-speed gearbox, you can afford a new end plate. Highly recommend using the Casa Performance end plate. The reason for that is, you'll see that in a minute when I go to stage 2, but that means you can see down into the gearbox when you're shimming up your what I like to call Christmas tree or gear cluster with 5th gear. But what I'm going to do now is just fit the, by the way, I have removed the dowel. That just means pulling it up is going to be a lot easier, and I'd never actually tighten these down too much. I just like fit 4 bolts, tighten them down, and that should be enough to be able to check your shim there. You can get it further down on the motor than just doing that. And now I have to check the oh shit, does that oh, maybe I have to go smaller. That's a bit weird. that goes to show actually how much difference a lay shaft means. The recommended tolerance between the end plate and the gearbox shim on this is 0.05 to 0.25, and this is 0.6 because for some strange reason I haven't got a 0.05. It's close enough, and I just can't get that under there, and the gearbox is completely locked up. So yeah, I'll have to see if I can find a smaller shim. So this is the main reason why I don't fit the end plate dowels or the gear cluster. Once I've undone those bolts, I can just simply lift it up. Just saves me a lot of hassle trying to press these buggers out. Right, I fit a 1.3 shim in there, which I actually measured to about 1.35, and my 0.06 shim just goes under there nicely. So that means I've sorted that bit out, and now is to the difficult bit, which is lining up your fifth gear on the gear cluster with your fifth gear on your loose gears, your proper gears. And that is where these holes come in handy. So once I've whipped out this end plate again, I will remove that's that thing, multitasking, talking and working at the same time. Not really that good at that, to the truth, which is a bit of a bummer if you're a YouTuber. Am I a YouTuber? I don't know. I don't really class myself as that. But anyway, we'll whip off these, and I have to take out all the gears, and I'll fit the gear cluster, and I'll show you how lining up the gears look once I've taken all this rigmarole off again. Right, one thing that I have to mention is on this particular gearbox, I can't remember if it's on the later Cyclone 5. I don't think it is, and it's definitely not on the MB 5-speed gearbox. You have to fit you can shim the gear cluster with a little shim that's here. If you get older one of these older DRT 5-speed gearboxes, then I think they came with 2 or 3 of these shims. But on the instructions, it says that you should try and fit the fattest one first, because obviously when you put this into your engine and tighten up the gear cluster with your clutch whatsamajig, then you pull that up so that it sits flush on the back of the end plate. And this is sort of what you shim the height of the Christmas tree with. Another thing to note is on all these 5-speed gearboxes, I'm not sure obviously about the AF, but all the ones I fit, all 3 types, you do not fit shim on the bottom of the gear cluster. And to be perfectly honest, why do we need a shim on original gear clusters? I'm not quite sure, because obviously when you fit these, if it's original or not, and you tighten up your clutch, you pull the gear cluster through, and this is not going to be in contact with the engine anyway. I'm not quite sure about that. If anything, it might stop some oil getting into that bearing down there. Anyway, let me throw this together. I've now fit my 5th gear. I'm going to fit this gear cluster, tighten down the end plate, pull it through with the clutch spider, well, not the spider, you know, the center, and yeah, we have to have a see how they line up down there. So I have pulled up my gear cluster with my trusty clutch spider here, and hopefully you can see this. I think you maybe can. I'm using my mobile phone light to shine down in the gearbox there, and you can actually see the gearbox fifth gear cluster fifth gear and the loose fifth gear down there, which is really good, and that's why I recommend one of these. Back in the olden days, as we say, but when these first came out, we used to have to like use endoscopes or whatever they called, or you had to try and get your mobile phone down the side there and film it and have a look, which is a real pain in the arse. But the nice thing about this, I can see that it's pretty well lined up by eye. But what I like to do as well is I use an implement, pointy implement, that I put down the hole there, and can you see it? I can't see a thing because I've got a camera in my face. What I do is I like to drag it, while I move the gearbox, I like to drag it along and feel how much of a distance there is on the gears there. So let me just spin that. And what I can feel is, although it looks to the naked eye completely in line, this is just so important that these are in line, by the way. It is a tiny, like a nut stick's width down from the loose gear to the gear cluster. And I reckon if I fit the shim that is slightly thinner, which it will raise the gear cluster slightly, I think that's actually going to make it sit too tall. So I'm going to have to live with how that fits there. I'm actually quite pleased with it. You can see my little pointy thing. Hello. Yeah. So I think we're done there, and I can fit all the gears and bolt it all down. Well, first off, I managed to drop a dowel in the bottom of the gearbox. So I had to take all the gears out again. And now I managed to fit the end plate without... I forgot the end plate shim, the gearbox shim. So that's a bit annoying. But I'm getting there. But this gives me the perfect opportunity to demonstrate another nice feature about this Castle Performance end plate. It features 4 holes. So that means you can use 4 screws, and you can actually wind out the end plate flat. So it comes out a lot easier. Can you see that? That's really nifty. So you don't have to mess around too much, faffing around trying to take out this end plate. So it's not all... everything's not a nightmare, I suppose. The only thing I have to remember to do is I have to give my gear cluster a couple of taps just to ease it out of that end plate bearing. And wind in these screws here. There you go. So it should be actually just be a case of just lifting it off, which it isn't. I think it's because it's still stuck a little bit. There you go. Nice one. That means I can just make sure that I've got that shim under there. Right. I don't want to take this up anymore. Right, so that is the gearbox fit, bolted down, gear cluster pulled through, everything's hunky-dory. Let's see if it will go through the gears. I've got it in first at the moment, I think. Yeah. Let's just make sure. Oh, that was that was really quick. First, is that neutral? Yep, that's neutral. And it's freeing up. Very nice. Second. Third. Fourth. Fifth. Nice one. Nice one, sir. Fourth. Third. It's harder this way. It feels a bit stiff, but I know it isn't because of the spring. I just need to find neutral again before I bolt all this down. Just haven't got strength in my fingers these days. Oi. Well, yep. What's it in now? Is it in first again, is it? See if I can select neutral. Is that neutral? Yes, it is. Lovely, lovely jubbly. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe it'll be of interest if you're going to fit a 5-speed gearbox. They're not really super easy, but if I can do it, I think almost anyone can do it. Anyway, next video, what I'll do tonight is get that engine together, chuck it in the frame, do the wiring, fit some bodywork. I've already fit the mid-range fuel tank. You can have a look at that. I'll just whiz you around there. Can you see that? So the mid-range fuel tank is already fit, which is good, and the toolbox. And I've done some other little things. Let's do a bit of wobbly cam, shall we? Hard to see, obviously, with this camera on mine. But another thing that I've done while you've been away is I have fit a Series 2 toolbox lock on this. The reason for that is I'm not really super keen on the Series 1 types with just the key. This means that you don't, I mean, when you're doing a trip, you don't really, it's like faffing around with keys. I hate it, basically. So we can have the keys with us, but if we're going to park it up, we can lock it. But this means that at least we can open it without using a key. It's keyless. It's keyless. So that's why I've done that. I've fit a new choke lever on this. Another bit of wobbly cam there. Fit a new choke. This is Casa Lambretta item. That's because the old one was knackered. The spring wasn't there, and I was also missing the cap on the back there. You actually need that for the choke to function properly, because you've got like little washer in the back there. So what I think I'll do is I need more whiskey. What I think I'm going to do is in the next one is oh yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the fit the SIP Speedo. Let me put you there so you're not quite in my face. That's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. Yep, so other things I'm going to do, put it together, put on the rear hub, fit the rim and the tyre, throw it in the scooter. I'm not going to start it yet. I'm going to wait until one of the next videos. I think what I'll do next time is definitely fit the SIP Speedo if I can do it. I've got some tricks up my sleeve there, which should be cool. I think I'm going to be able to do it. I have done it before. It is a bit faff. I'm going to fix that. Yeah, so we're almost there. I am living in a hope. It's probably more like living in a dream that I can have this scooter up and running before local motorbike meet. I love turning up on the Lambretta on the motorbike meets. You get quite a lot of attention, both positive and negative. Yeah, so I want to do that next weekend. It's 6 days to go. I think I can do it as long as I don't end up... oh, what's it called? What's it called? As long as I don't end up having to faff around with something unexpected, which is which is usually the norm. But yeah, anyway, I'll stop waffling. I'll see you on the next one. 6 Speedo, as I said. Don't forget, if you like this kind of stuff, do the old subscribe, give me a thumbs up. You can also hit the notification bell if you want to see videos come up on your feed. And if you want to support the channel, my camera, I've talked about that before. I've got a wish list on Buy Me a Coffee page. You can donate there. And otherwise, I'll see you all in the next one. Yeah, ta-ra!